Hello, everyone. This Hello, everyone. This is Drew Jackson with the Middle Initial Podcast. Hello seems a bit too corporate. What's up, everybody? This is Drew Jackson with the Middle Initial Podcast, and I'm here, Drew A. Jackson, and I'm here as always with Kevin Lewis, Kev Lewis, or Big Heavy, free from Jets.
What did I tell you before the show started? Retire. Don't say it. Don't say Big Heavy, bro.
How about Big K? Circle K?
No,
Big K?
No, don't call me Big Nothing. Just act like you can't read. Don't call me. Anyway, we have a special guest in the building, Charles McDonald from Yahoo Sports. What's cracking, bro?
What's up, guys? How's everything going? Appreciate you guys having me on.
We appreciate you being on with us. We're good, man. Had a good weekend.
Are we good?
About the well, it depends. You're a Falcons fan. Drew's a Jets fan. I'm a retiree, so I think I'm doing good. I can't speak for y'all.
No, that game was that was a game where I feel like everyone lost. Like by the time it was over, there's nothing there. I mean, for the Falcons, it's like cool, whatever. You're in first place of the NFC South. You have a 1-game lead on the Saints, and you beat them, so it's close to like 1.5 or 2-game lead. But they stink. Like you watch that game, like that's not a good football team. They just happen to run into a team that's worse off than them right now. So I'd be conflicted between like, okay, yeah, it'd be cool to see them play a playoff game for the first time since 2017. But at the same time, I don't really feel the need to watch them get like run over by the Cowboys or the Eagles, and then get like a 20th pick in the draft and play a first place schedule next year when they're not ready for it. But at the same time, like I'll never concede that I want the Saints to have a better record than them. So I think I'm just kind of stuck here, and I'm just going to play out. But I really don't give a shit about the Bucs. But the Bucs and Panthers, I could not care less about. The Panthers rivalry hasn't been real since like Michael Vick was the quarterback, and maybe like the one Cam Newton year. Bucs, I really couldn't care less about. It's all about the Saints. Like as long as you finish better record than the Saints, you had a good season. But this year, it just kind of feels like we're just wasting time. And like you're going to end up with like the 20th pick. You lose like what 42-14 to Dallas and Philly at home in the wild card round.
14.
And then what?
Offensive explosion. You're forecasting, huh?
Well, I mean, I think once it gets to like 35-7 at the early fourth quarter, they take their foot off the gas a little bit, and then you get a little touchdown, make it 35-14, and then give you one more real drive, and it's over. Your season's over. And then you draft Bo Nix like 19th overall. You still have a crappy quarterback next year, and then you just kind of keep replaying the hits.
Bo Nix, that guy needs to get a job. How old is he now? Like 38?
Somehow he's only like 22, I think.
What? No way. He's been in college for 12 years.
23. No, okay, that's wrong. He turns 24 in February.
I would have bet the over on that one too, to be honest with you, but he's 22.
All I have to say about that game is the real losers are not only the Jets, but it's also anyone who sat in that rain for that game, because it's a horrible game to sit in the rain. You have to cheer for Boyle and Simeon to which one's shitty. The answer is they're all shitty. But I have no sympathy for that. Like, why would this team's dog shit? Why would you go out and buy tickets and sit in the rain and watch them play another dog shit team? Like, you have the internet. You should be we all know what's going on here. Was anyone surprised how that game played out yesterday? No. I wasn't surprised there were that many points
at all. The Jets defense is great. The Falcons defense is good. Both offenses are terrible right now, and it was raining. Like, I don't know why you would spend money to go to that. I struggle to find. I feel bad for people who do that because you know what you're getting yourself into. Maybe they don't want to do that, and that's fine too.
I will say Jonathan Vilma seemed to think it was like the greatest game plan for both teams ever. He was like, wow, this is some great football by Desmond Ritter and Trevor.
I ain't going to speak too negatively on Jonathan Vilma because great chat and all of that. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
He played for the Saints for a long time too, pal.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's always on Falcons games. I guess he just gets like the lower rung for whatever network he works for. Just like the lower rung games. And he never knows what's going on. Like half the time, he don't even know the players on the field. Like I whenever he's on, I have to start muting it because I'll get so mad. Like why don't you know like who the starting left tackle for the Falcons is or whatever? Why don't you know like very prominent players in the game? And it's just there's times when he's coming in a Falcons game like a Saints bias shows through. Nobody has time for that, so I just mute him and move on.
The only time he knows what's going on is when a ball is on the ground. He will yell fumble like he's still on the field. It's so funny. Like a couple times I had to be like, yo, is my TV too loud? Because he would just fumble. Like, relax, big fella. You're not on the field. Relax. Ball's on the ground. It's like, bro, you're not a middle linebacker anymore. You don't have to do this. I promise you, don't have to do it.
But you know what's great before we move on? From one of our special friends, Thor.
You are now tuned in to the Middle Initial Podcast, bitch. Now everybody pod nowadays, but it pays when you listen to Drew, Kevin, Case, and in case you missed it, get your spirits lifted. Man, New York's getting covered just to be specific. When the beast will kick it, you get back. Yeah, listen one time, I promise you come back. No, we switching up a topic, you know that we come pack. And I don't want to say it, but bitch, we want blacks. In fact, we need that. Cause ain't nobody talk like the boys. It don't matter who you like or employ. We've been the best for a minute. Big brains could've went to MIT, but we like talking shit. Here's the MIP.
Always love Thor, but always love his work. Follow him when you get the chance on social media. I will say, I don't know if I'm smart enough for MIT because I picked the Jets as my team, so I willingly picked them. No, not even raising this, just willingly picked the Jets for some strange reason.
That's crazy.
Can you give us the actual timeline, Jude?
We're not doing this today.
You brought it up. Might as well. When did you become a fan, Jude?
I saw them in 2010. My first game was that 9-0 loss to the Packers. I was like, wow, this looks fun to watch for some reason. And then it's just been downhill ever since. So if you do the whole correlation and causation, yes, this horrible drought around the time I started becoming a fan. Kev has me relive this for some reason, and the trauma on my face is evident.
Bro, I was ready to ask Charles about 49ers Eagles, and you brought up that you can't go to MIT because you root for the Jets. I just wanted you to clarify.
What does that even mean, bro? Yeah.
Right, I willingly picked them. I was trying to make a joke. I'll leave the jokes.
Yeah, we know. You know, and then I made you explain when you became a fan. You did. Here we are.
Oh my goodness. So we got the tribute to the Black Air Forces. Deebo Samuel's wearing some Black Air Forces. The only thing, he wasn't stealing anything, but he was stealing a bunch of yards because the Eagles refused to tackle him.
Sorry to cut you off. Talk about this Black Forces line. Did Deebo actually wear Black Forces, or are we just making this up?
I don't remember. It happened.
Like, do you maybe or
I could
know from this past week is Brock Purdy showed up looking like a suburban father. Like that's the only fashion I know from this weekend.
No, he did wear black Air Force One cleats at least for pregame yesterday.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
See, so he had that
explains his performance. I wish somebody would have let me know. I'd have bet everything was over.
I respect 49ers fans or 49ers fans and players for holding this grudge because, it's like people think they're unreasonable for being upset that they literally could not throw a pass in the NFC title game. People are like, oh, we beat you. Is it crazy to say if they had one quarterback who could throw a pass in that game that it might look a little different? Just a little bit instead of having Christian McCaffrey play Wildcat for the last 3 quarters of the game? Is that really that unreasonable? So look, I respect this grudge actually because I feel like they've been gaslit for just telling the simple truth. Hey, maybe we don't lose 31-7 if we can literally throw a pass. Like if we just had a quarterback who was healthy enough to throw a ball past the line of scrimmage, might look a little bit different. So I like that, and I'm glad they got their look back in the regular season yesterday. Now you just got to do it again in the playoffs most likely because there's only 3 teams that matter in the NFC. It's Dallas, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and San Francisco has stomped both of the other 2.
No Detroit?
No.
Wow.
Why? Because look, I think Jared Goff is better than Brock Purdy, but they don't have the same level of supporting cast. If you don't have Kyle Shanahan, you don't have Deebo, Ayuk, Trent Williams, George Kittle. San Francisco, they got the Avengers. Detroit's just a good team.
Yeah.
And then when you compare, Dak's playing at MVP level right now. Jalen Hurts is kind of up and down to me, but the rest of the team is so good. Like, I think the Lions are one offseason away from getting to that San Francisco, Philadelphia, Dallas level, because they're just a hair behind right now. And now that I've said this, the Lions will probably beat the Cowboys in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, because football doesn't make sense this year. You're right.
I have a question to you, Charles. Do you think like any other team in the NFC North can catch up to Detroit? I think Detroit's 8-3 right now. There's a couple of 6-6.
I think it's 9-3, right?
9-3 now.
Okay, 9-3. Yeah, they'd be the Saints.
I mean, Green Bay has the best chance. Minnesota, like, you have a fun run with the Josh Dobbs stuff. I think you did enough to like kind of keep your season alive, which I can always respect. But he did turn back into Josh Dobbs, so I think that they'll probably struggle to make the playoffs. And with the way that Green Bay is playing, I would give them the nod in terms of like if it's either gonna be Green Bay or Minnesota that's gonna catch Detroit. Green Bay has got to be, your favorite there because of how they're playing recently. Jordan Love looks out of his mind.
Yes.
And I think what's impressive is like, it was like it's kind of interesting looking back in the Packers season because you're like, man, like these guys really look disjointed and they don't really know what's going on. And then you like think about like the actual age of the players that are playing. Like, Jordan Love's in his first year as a starter. David Bakhtiari is out, so they have a second year player, Rasheed Walker, like getting most of the reps at left tackle. Christian Watson's a second-year player. Romeo Dobbs is a second-year player. Dotavian Wicks and Jaden Reed are rookies. Both their tight ends, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, are rookies. So it's like, wow, holy shit! Like this team, like not even that they haven't played together, like they haven't played football at all. So I guess it wasn't that surprising looking back on their struggles, but now you kind of get to see, okay, they've got a few games under the belt. They've got time in the system. This is kind of what the potential for it looks like, and they still have pieces to add moving forward. So I think the Packers, like, they've kind of flipped the script on their whole future over the past, like, it's called 2 months, because Matt LaFleur, there was a point where he was kind of on the hot seat and people were wondering if he was going to get fired, and now obviously that's not going to happen, and they have, it looks to be another franchise quarterback, which is annoying.
Like, it's crazy to think about the Packers have 3 quarterbacks, right? I mean, Jordan Love, we don't know what he's going to be yet, but that run of just like 3 quarterbacks for like 25 years is something you don't see in pro sports these days. Like, same with the Steelers head coach and whatnot. But yeah, that shit's just
see, that's
crazy.
the stability that people actually should hype up, and not goofy shit like bringing back Matt Canada this year because you can't change the system, and I don't know what you do if you change the system, and you need the stability. No, bro, bringing back incompetent people is crazy, not stable. Thank you.
Right. Like, yeah, I understand. Like the Panthers are kind of funny in that respect, because I understand why people are like, oh, don't flip these guys so fast, a head coach, but you also know when someone's not cut out for what, like, the position that they're in. Like, you kind of feel that out. Like the Matt Rule getting fired, I think we all saw he was in a bit over his head. I covered the Colts Panthers game not so long ago because I happened to be in Charlotte at the time, and that was a game when Bryce Young threw 2 pick sixes to Kenny Moore, and Kenny Moore outscored the Panthers by himself. It was a pretty tough game. But after the game, like, Frank Wright, he looked like he didn't want to be there anymore. So, like, once the vibes have gotten that bad, it sucks to be like the team that's rotating head coaches all the time. But you should also be able to sniff some stuff out that, okay, we really don't have to juice with this guy. Let's start over. And when you're David Tepper, you're freaking multi-billionaire, infinite resources. It doesn't even matter.
Hey, what do you make of Bryce Young's rookie season? And well, long term, his rookie season, we know his rookie season, and him long term.
Oh man, it's like, I get why people are so defensive of him, because the circumstances around him are truly horrendous. Like, the offensive line has totally regressed from last year. Because the interesting with the Panthers is, by the time last season ended, they had one of the best offensive lines in the league, like, just in terms of protection, and they had the running game really popping off with Dante Foreman when Steve Wilkes was the interim. So I don't think it was really possible to foresee that they would become one of the worst units in the league. I think we all knew the wide receiver situation was going to be rough with Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, and Jonathan Mingo, as a 3 receiver set's probably not going to do much. Miles Sanders, as your running back one behind that offensive line, probably isn't going to give you all that much. So, the circumstances are definitely bad for Bryce, but at the same time, I would be pretty worried if I was a Panthers fan, watching some of the things that he can do, irrespective of the scheme or the players around him. Some of the inaccuracies. The biggest problem to me is if you're going to be that small, you kind of need to be a Kyler Murray level athlete, which he's not. So, really the only running plays to have available to him for Bryce are if something breaks down in passing play, he can scramble through the middle of the offensive line. But even it's crazy. If he tries to scramble out the edge of the pockets, he gets caught by safeties and linebackers sometimes because they're just better athletes than he is. And then it's when the pocket starts to collapse and guys are in his face, he can't see anymore, which is why you get to see some really bad mistakes on his part under pressure. But they gotta upgrade the supporting cast for him, sure. But I think they're also in a situation where it's if they had their own pick this year, if they had the first pick in the draft, we'll be telling them to probably pick Caleb Williams, right? So I don't really know how excited to be, but I think it's good for him and probably just good for Tepper as a whole that for the first time since he's been the owner of the team, he won't have a new starting quarterback at the start of next season. He's had a different one every single year.
Is Bryce Young's size a concern to you? Because he always looks very small when playing. Is that is that a concern for you?
Well, it's a concern. Like I said, if you're going to be that small, because Kyler Murray is probably got the same height as Bryce Young, but he's also a little heavier. And like I said, Kyler was a top 10 pick in baseball. He didn't run the 40-yard dash, but we all know when he's out there, he's one of the fastest players in the field, and he's got an absolute cannon for an arm. So those things kind of help mitigate, because when Kyler can't see, it's okay, well, fuck it, I'll just drop back another 5 yards and then I'll run out the pocket and I'll try and make something happen with my legs. But that's not always available for Bryce. So it's it's not just the size; it's the size compared with the athleticism that's going to have to make everything around him be clean and perfect. So you're going to have to really shore up the inside of that middle, shore up the interior of the offensive line. Hope that Icky gets back to looking like the top 6 pick that you drafted to be a left tackle, and then the rest of it is, how much is David Tepper willing to spend in free agency?
Trading all of that to get up there to take a 5'9" quarterback was always a rather insane practice. When said 5'9" quarterback is not an elite athlete, yes, is it possible Bryce Young ends up being good? Sure. The path to him being good is narrower than any of the other top quarterbacks. So it's doing that was I don't know, man. That's tough business. But speaking of the Panthers aforementioned pick, what do you think the Bears should do?
I think you hope that. It all depends on. I was gonna say I think it depends on what Justin Fields does the last month this season, but that would honestly be a bit reactionary because you got to take the whole, the whole thing into scope. I think you trade him for the draft and then take a quarterback using Carolina's pick, or if you decide that or if we live into this world where Justin Fields goes off and puts together MVP performance over the last month of the season, then that's obviously the best case scenario for you, because then you already have the guy. You can trade that Carolina pick for an absolute ransom, because there's 2 quarterbacks at the top that teams are going to be coveting, and then you can fill out the rest of your roster. But as things stand right now, trade Fields to a team that's looking to develop a quarterback, and then Ryan Poles can go out and get his own guy, whether it's Caleb Williams or Drake May at the top of the draft. That's what I would do.
I agree with you. I think I think Fields, obviously he's a mixed bag. You still don't quite know what he is, and obviously development isn't all linear, but he's already this is year 3. So you could take a comparable prospect, start the clock over, and still get potentially another elite offensive prospect with your own pick, and then go from there. I think that's probably the optimal way to go about this.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to go about it. Wait, hold on. What team was this for again?
The Bears.
Yeah, it's tough because like with Fields, the problem with Fields is like if he was just flat out bad, this would be it wouldn't be really a discussion because he had the game on last week Monday night against the Vikings where it was pretty bad. But like literally the week before against the Lions, he looked like a franchise stud quarterback that could carry the load for a whole offense. And then, they just kind of got unlucky at the end of the game because the defense got steamrolled and they ended up losing. But it's just the physical traits are so outstanding, and it's not like fully 100% theoretical like maybe a Trey Lance where, maybe we can see this. We've seen Justin Fields have some of these crazy big-time games, even this season, but on a game-to-game, down-to-down, right. From a game-to-game, down-to-down, standpoint, it's just, the consistency just hasn't been there. So I think you could still probably get maybe a second-round pick for him if you trade him next year, which is not a bad return, especially when you just traded your second for Montez Sweat, who's been an absolute monster for them since he joined the team. They're kind of in good shape because the asset of Justin Fields can get you something that can help out your new quarterback. And like I said, you could like replace some of the value on the Montez Sweat trade for a quarterback that you don't really want. And then Ryan Poles can go out and draft his own guy because if you remember, Justin Fields was drafted by Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace in order to try to save their jobs, which ultimately did not work.
Now I have a quick question for you, Charles. This is going to be a hot take from me. I know I have so many hot takes, but AFC South. Do you think the AFC South in like 2-3 years could have the best overall quarterback collection top to bottom in the league? Because I was just thinking about that.
Well, what's the competition? Like the AFC West, NFC East with Dak and Hurts.
I mean, it's kind of it, right?
AFC
there isn't a whole lot of good quarterback play anymore.
Yes.
You have the NFC East. What else?
AFC West, NFC East.
AFC North. Yeah, AFC North counts.
Nasty
man. Oh yeah.
It's hard to find a collection of quarterback talent like this. So, but it's pretty crazy. Like, the AFC South used to be a punchline, and now you can get to the question where they're gonna have because Lawrence is good, Anthony Richardson's good, CJ Stroud is like MVP consideration as a rookie, which is something we've never heard of. Like he's on track to throw for over 5,000 yards this year, which is just insane. So it could definitely be one of the best quarterback divisions like next year, depending on how Anthony Richardson looks, and if the Jaguars offense can kind of find some consistency, aka move on from Press Taylor as a play caller. But like they're like it's I think it's a testament to those guys because this is year 3 for Trevor, year 1 for CJ, and then like in the short window that we got to see Anthony Richardson play, he looked like an absolute game changer.
He did
for the Colts at quarterback. I'm excited for the Colts next year because they've been able to build on whatever they have and kind of get back to being a playoff relevant team. And now you get to play this year with house money. It's not like other years like where you have an upstart team that probably isn't sustainable and you find yourself at the 20th pick like, well, fuck, we don't have a quarterback still. That guy's still in the roster, so I think it's good for them to go out and win all these games and then see what happens if you can make it to the playoffs. Because, like I said, Anthony Richardson's coming back next year, and what we saw from him, you should be pretty excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. Anthony Richardson was having a good start, and then he died because he was on my fantasy team again. These players
every week you get a notification. Like, Anthony Richardson went from healthy to questionable every week without fail. But he looked really good when he was playing.
Yeah, he looked good. I think Will Levis, he had a hot start too against what was it? The Falcons, actually? He had that hot start against the Falcons. And then he just died the rest of the way too. But I think he has the potential there. He has some good moments.
He's got a cannon. I don't know if he can play. He can run. He got a cannon. He's got a cannon. He can run.
He's got the tools.
Yeah. He reminds me of Kyle Bowler, and I'm not saying that he's going to end up being that bad. I'm just saying the physical traits kind of remind me of Kyle Bowler. So We'll see how that. And hopefully that ends up better for him than it ended up for Kyle Bowler. But Charles, who do you think is the best team in the AFC?
Best team in the AFC, I think I'll roll with Baltimore. The defense is it's ridiculous. Like Mike McDonald is like genius level, like boy wonder type of defensive coordinator, and they already had a bunch of talent that's gotten better under his tutelage. Like a bunch of guys in the secondary that kind of had to play last year because there were so many injuries, have been able to step up and become like real starting assets for them out there. And then Lamar, Lamar hasn't had like the cleanest year from just a stats perspective, but like when I watch him play, I still see someone who's like super in control of the offense and like a major driving force in terms of success they're able to have. So I think there's a chance that if they can just lock up home field advantage, that's a team I would hate to play in the playoffs because at least on defense they're going to be prepared. And then Lamar, he can do anything. He can do anything that any quarterback like in the history of football has been able to do on the field, whether it's arm talent wise, running wise. He's just truly like a ridiculous player. So I'm excited. I hope that they get the number one seed just to see what that starts to look like with that defense paired with that offense, because I think this is the year with Kansas City being down a little bit. Cincinnati's not going to make the playoffs. Buffalo's not going to make the playoffs at this rate. It's kind of setting up pretty well for Baltimore if they can, just get into the playoffs.
Now with Buffalo, right quick, I know you mentioned them. Do you think they're going to make any changes on like the coaching staff, or do you think it's going to stay with McDermott?
I don't really think there's a need to make a change at coaching staff. To me, it's just you got old. Like your core got kind of old, and then you got hurt in the same year. Because even like Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, they're not quite as good as they used to be, which makes sense. I mean, they've been at their peak there in Buffalo for 5 or 6 years, and that wasn't the first stop for either guy. So now you look at that, the Trey White injury and the Matt Milano injury, Daquan Jones injury, it adds up pretty fast in terms of like where your personnel starts to fall apart. So, and then not even that, like, if you pull up their draft history, they've missed on some picks out there recently too, which makes it interesting, I would say, in terms of like what's next for them, because I don't think they need to fire Sean McDermott or really anyone. They just kind of need to have a good offseason to get back on track. Because when I look at the Bills, it's just, I think this is one of the hardest things for sports fans and analysts to accept. Is like sometimes it just ain't your year, bro.
Yeah.
It's just not, and that's what happened to me with Buffalo. You got all the bad breaks. You still see the potential because Josh Allen is like a truly amazing quarterback, but you just don't have enough depth this year to push yourself across the finish line.
Yeah, I completely agree there. It's just like they're losing, like they have like plus 101 point differential, but they're like 2-5 in like one score games. So
there's such a paradox. That whole team is such a, and the thing is, like as Charles said, sometimes it's just not your year, and it's sometimes the answers are always the easiest, but we have to overcomplicate things. I get it. We live in the content era where we have to talk about things. We have to say who's to blame and who's at fault. And sometimes it's just like, shit just went left. Like we don't have to put anything behind it, anything scientific. Shit just went left. You watch Buffalo play, that's like everything looks right, and then the final score goes against them. That's how it's been with them. They've had some bad luck. They've had some bad turnover luck. I know Josh be throwing the ball to the other team sometimes. I get it. They've been beating me over the head with that for the last 6 weeks. I get it. But the fumble luck has not gone their way. Sometimes it just happens. It's hard as hell to win the NFL year after year after year after year. And also, not for nothing, I think the Patriots kind of alter the way we look at these things because they just won 6 Super Bowls in 15 years, 20 years.
Why can't my team do that? It's like,
right. Like, the Bills aren't going to make the playoffs every year. Josh Allen's career, they stink. Tom Brady, whatever. It's like that's one team, guys. One, arguably the best dynastic run at damn near any sport ever. Like, stop comparing people to them and stop letting them alter how you view this stuff.
Right, and ultimately, it should make you. I don't want to say appreciate because, like, fuck them, kind of. But you should be in awe more of like what the Patriots are able to accomplish.
It's really hard to do. Like, I ain't gonna praise them.
I'd rather
die, but like, it's really fucking hard to do.
Like, dude, right now, the 10th, 11th, 12th seeds in the AFC are Buffalo, Cincinnati, and the Chargers. Like that's a lot of quarterback money that's not in the playoffs. And I know that Joe Burrow is obviously hurt now for the season, but it's not like he was having his best season either before he went out of the lineup. I mean, sometimes there's ebbs and flows. Not everyone gets to be Tom Brady and Bill Belichick for 20 years, and it doesn't mean you're bad. It just means it's not your year.
It doesn't mean right. Sometimes it's just not your year, man.
Now, I have a question. I know like those high-name quarterbacks are out of the playoffs right now. And this year, NFL play overall has just been kind of stinky. I mean, I'm trying to find a more elegant word besides stinky, but it's been stinky. So it's like, what's explaining it, do you think? Do you think it's the refs? Do you think it's practice? Defense is getting better?
Defense is definitely getting better. I think we're in an era where defensive coordinators are like as sharp as they've ever been in terms of like how they're preparing for some like the new age shit that's hit the NFL. And also, like, it is true, like passing stats, basically all offensive stats are way down for the first time since I think the 2017 season. We're at lows, but like we also did just have a huge quarterback exodus from the league in terms of like older guys hitting the end of their careers. I mean, think about who's retired over the past, let's call it 4 or 5 years, like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Philip Rivers, Aaron Rodgers is, we'll see what happens with that. But that's a lot of guys who like already knew how to play quarterback that have left the league. So you lose some of that veteran stuff, and then at the same time, we have a bunch of quarterback injuries this year that are making some not great guys. Dude, we saw Clayton Tune this year for the Cardinals. Like, he's a 5th-round rookie, and he started a game this year. So, look, I really do think that this year is just kind of a blip on the radar, and we'll see like what happens with some of these guys develop. But
yeah,
it's defense, quarterback injuries, quarterback retirements, and we've kind of ended up in a weird year for the NFL where offense is way down because like who's gotten hurt this year that's forced a backup to play? Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow. Like these are guys who have all been paid a significant amount of money by their teams to play. So hopefully when we get those guys back healthy next year, we can start to see a little bit more offensive explosion, even though, sometimes it's fun to watch a defense just crack someone's head, except the Falcons Jets game was not that brazen of that.
No. The whole Jets schedule, quite frankly, like every game. Put it like this: what you saw yesterday, that's been every game. Like not all of it was inclement weather, but that's basically been okay. The first to 13 wins. That's been the entire Jets schedule, and it makes for some really, really awful football.
Yeah, I used to be a fan of defense. I mean, I still like defense, but I used to be like gung-ho for defense. And I was telling Kev, I want some defensive football. And I'm like, no, I don't want this shit anymore.
Drew would be like, I want 14-10. I'm like, bro.
No, you want a good defense when your offense is also good. Because the worst type of football to watch is bad offense, great defense. Because nothing ever happens. That's why I remember when I was covering the Jets, and I think it was the year they went 7-9, and they like had a sneaky like top 8 defense with Greg Williams and Jamal Adams was making all these plays. But on the flip side, you had the worst offense in the NFL. So every game is just a rock fight because the defense is good enough to not let anyone score, and the offense is bad enough where they can't score. And it's just it's awful. Like
and the opposing
when you're going to be a bad team,
chances because they're just like, all right, they can't score, so it's like, all right, if we get to 13, we're probably going to win. We don't even need to take chances. We could dump off on 3-8. Nobody cares because they can't fucking score.
Right? Yeah, it's terrible. Like Arizona to me would be like if I was like that's a fun 3-10 because your coaching staff is trying shit. Even before Kyler Murray got hurt, like you had some games where you were able to like really score some points. And now you kind of get the back half of the season where you're playing with house money because Kyler's back. He's playing well enough where I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback, but you're still losing. So you might get Marvin Harrison Jr. Like that's a fun spot to be in.
That would be a really fun spot for him.
Yeah, you're not totally helpless, and your games are watchable because your quarterback is still good.
Mm-hmm. And they were somehow, some of them were still watchable. Josh Dobbs too, which speaks a lot to culture, because I remember their coach was getting ripped for like his pregame speech during a preseason game. It was kind of like, but they've been kind of watchable lately. There is one thing that we're all going to watch, and that's some good old-fashioned college football playoffs. As you can see, 13-0, no bowl for FSU. Any other notable snubs? I know that was a big one. I know you had some thoughts about that, Charles.
Well, I thought that was only a meaningful one, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Georgia fan. I didn't expect them to get in. Like, I know there were some fans who were like, oh, if you won the best four, we should be Alabama, man. And honestly, I'm not complaining too much because they've won the last two. So, like, whatever, we're okay. I did want to get that three-peat before the schedule got real for real next year, but the playoff expanded, and I would assume they'll still make it somehow. Florida State's tough, though, because I feel both sides a bit. Like, dude, we've seen what this offense looks like since Jordan Travis got hurt. It's not the same. It's just not the same. So, like, if you're going to go from the approach of or at least within reason, try to play both sides of the four best teams and also teams who deserve it. Like, I think it's honestly a pretty easy case to make that Florida State without Jordan Travis is not one of the four best teams in the nation. And also, dude, like, this is run by television executives, bro. Like, they want people to come in and be entertained and watch and not go off and fuck off during New Year's Eve. Because guess what? If Jordan Travis is playing against Michigan and I can do that, or I can just turn around and not look at the game and drink with my friends, I'm not going to watch that game really, or we might even just turn it off and watch something else instead. You need people to watch these games, and the truth of the matter is most of these playoff games have not been good since they started this off.
Yeah.
A lot of them
that is for
are
damn
blowouts. Yeah, games that aren't close, so you kind of need to give yourself a chance. Like, when you ask people, do you think Florida State with their third string quarterback or their backup quarterback can be helped by them with stand a chance in Michigan? Most people are going to say no. So I think it's a fair decision from that part, but I just can't stop thinking about how bad I feel for those players. Like,
yeah,
you did everything that was asked of you. You went 13-0 in a Power 5 conference. You beat a handful of top 25 teams. You beat the number 10 team in the country in the AFC Championship game, and your defense totally smothered what has been an offense that can get hot at times. So I think, like, from the whole team perspective, that really sucks for those kids, because it's not just the last game you played. It's not just, the run up to the season. It's like this shit starts in February and March. Like, when you're grinding through the spring practices to get to the spring game, then you come back in the summer, you're working out, or you're going to class, training camp starts, you got all this shit going on in season, injuries, back and forth, and you still manage to finish 13-0 in the ACC, which is, it's not, maybe it's not what it quite used to be with Clemson going down, but that's still not a scrub conference. So to do all that, do everything that you need to do and still not get it, that did make me feel pretty shitty for the players. But at the same time, I think it's easy to understand why the committee would go in that direction.
Do you think SEC team suffers the same fate in the same circumstances?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
It
sucks, but that's what it is.
I would even say they would probably give a better benefit of the doubt to Ohio State. I mean, completely dominant. They went balls to the wall with Clemson, and they needed some magic to win some of these games. So I think that you kind of need Jordan Travis behind center if you're going to have a chance to win those games. And once you get into that situation, like, how much of a chance do they actually have? Just leave them out, let people be mad for a couple of weeks, and then we'll move on to 12 teams next year. But I'll never not feel bad for the kids, because you did everything right. You did everything you possibly could. You still didn't get it.
I think fans would take this a little bit differently if they realize, well, besides FSU fans, just general college football fans would take this a little bit differently if they just sat around, looked, and understood they're not really here for what's fair. Like, they don't really care what's fair, bro. Like, what's fair is not what's driving this shit. Ratings is what's driving most of this stuff. And unfortunately, listen, I feel terrible for those kids. Everybody else complain about it. It's kind of white noise, because it's like, all right, you're complaining about it now, this, that, and that. Okay, let's just play the go back in time game. They put FSU in the game. Jordan Travis doesn't play. They gain their doors blown off at halftime. These same people are not going to be watching it. That's the point. That is the point. They're not going to be. They're down 38-0 at halftime. You're gonna flip it off. You're gonna go do whatever it is with your friends or sleep. Whatever it is you're gonna do, it ain't gonna be watching that football game. So it's just it is what it is. They got an event to put on, and this is part of it. They're just not the same team without that dude. It sucks, but it sucks for the rest of them. They busted their ass to get here. But
because remember last year there was even some controversy last year with Ohio State getting into the mix. I know it was a little, I think the picture wasn't as clear as this year's was, which allowed Ohio State to get in. But there are people that weren't happy, and then they almost beat Georgia. You know, so they at the end of the day they made the right decision, because when you pair, if you're just looking at like what's going to make a great matchup, last year the only team that had the actual players to withhold the onslaught of like whatever Georgia had assembled was Ohio State. When you go back and look at the recruiting rankings and match it player for player, it's like Ohio State and Georgia were the two most talented teams in the country, and they were a field goal away from going to the national championship. So the committee ended up being right. But it still does suck. But at the end of the day, and they got to watch these games, bro. They got commercials to sell. They got TV rights deals to renew and try to rip each other off. It's not just about FSU and this singular one. It's a long-standing thing. And next year we'll go to 12 and we'll argue about some Group of 5 team that didn't make the cut either. So it's never going to end.
I have a question for you, Charles. This is a fun question. Say the NFL was somehow like BCS and they had only 4 teams. Which 4 teams this year would you put in the playoffs?
Oh man,
I was feeling when you said fun question. Good question.
Yeah, fun question. I think I would go. Wow, that's tough. Baltimore, San Francisco, Philly, maybe Miami. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Look, Tyreek Hill makes any game worth the ticket of admission or price admission.
He's a menace. Oh my goodness, that's so good at football.
Oh, that's tough though. Only 4 teams.
Yeah,
it's like even if that even what was my 4? It was Baltimore, San Francisco, Philly, Miami. Like even that, like you missed Dallas, who leads the league in point differential right now, which is it's tough.
Who do you think is the MVP?
I would give it to Tyreek Hill.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I feel like if a wide receiver not going to win it this year, assuming everything remains similar, a wide receiver not going to win it this year, are they ever? Really? And I mean, granted, they never have. Jerry Rice put up 22 touchdowns in like 5 games. They were like, no, we can't give it MVP, brother. No. So if it's not this year, when?
I don't know, because I don't think there's a better shot, man. This year, I mean, he's on pace to break like every, not every record I don't think, but at least the yardage record. And if, I don't know, at least you just watch him play. Like it totally changes the math on what's possible for that team. If I had to go with I know wins are just a part of it, are always going to be a part of it, and hopefully the Dolphins keep winning so we can seriously have a discussion in a few weeks. If wins weren't a part of it, and it was just based on how much of the load are you carrying, I would give it to Josh Allen probably, even though they're 6-6, because I still am blown away with this play, and he's kind of found the sweet spot where, if you measure it out, the turnovers aren't really killing the Bills. It's more just they need to finish some of these touchdown drives, but he's offering enough and carrying enough on his shoulders where I'm still thoroughly impressed with him week by week. But we all know that wins are factored into the equation, which is why Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts are at the top of the MVP discussion right now. But I think if it's going to go to anyone this year, this is the perfect year to not give it to a quarterback and kind of acknowledge the season that Tyreek Hill has had, because it doesn't make sense. When you start looking at the efficiency numbers and just the total yards numbers, and you watch him play, and he's finding the ball in midair and turning around and still scoring a 40-yard touchdown. It just feels like some Madden shit. And I feel like anytime you can say about someone, they should win the MVP.
I feel like every one of Tyreek's touchdowns is just like he's wide open. It's like no one's like within 20 yards of like catching him. Like this shit's like surreal. And he's like he was great in Kansas City. And it's crazy he got even better in Miami because many people were like, I remember like many people were like Tua can't get it to him, and it's like,
are we sure he got better? I don't think he got better. I think Miami's like, oh, we're just gonna spam him with targets. Kansas City didn't do that because A, they don't have to be fair, and B, they were just like, all right, we have Travis Kelce. Like Jalen Waddle's perfectly good at football, not knocking him at all. He ain't Travis Kelce. You have Tyreek Hill, who he wakes up and gets up out of bed in the morning open. That's just what he does. He gets fucking open, and he will blow past you. He changes the math for everything on offense. Everybody becomes better because Tyreek Hill exists. That was the case in Kansas City too, to a less obvious degree. And now you have it where it's just Tua is good. Tua is obviously made to look a lot better by the fact that Tyreek Hill exists. Because Tyreek Hill is always fucking open, bro.
It's crazy. Christian McCaffrey, do you think he's MVP? Sorry.
I mean, I'm not opposed to giving him votes, but like I also kind of reject the idea like running backs don't matter because is it like the most important piece? No. Do most running backs matter? No, but like some really do. The Browns would kill to have Nick Chubb right now. They would die to have Nick Chubb back on the field. Like their running game has fallen apart since he left. You're just relying on big plays totally instead of just moving the chains and keeping your drives moving like the great ones can do. But when you have someone like that, I think you fight tooth and nail to keep them. Because like Christian McCaffrey, especially with the pass game stuff, and that's not just receiving but also pass blocking too. Like he's someone that doesn't ever need to come off the football field. It kind of became like a perfect marriage between talent and play caller and scheme because Christian McCaffrey can run everything. Kyle Shanahan knows how to run a little bit of everything, but even the outside zone stuff, like he's perfectly equipped for that too. So I don't know if he, pulls in the votes. I thought he had a better case earlier in the season. He was on pace for almost 3,000 yards from scrimmage and like 30 touchdowns. But now just kind of having a regular elite running back year, which would make me give it to Tyreek Hill instead.
Yeah, definitely. It's grooving all right with the MVP race. And you know what else is grooving? We got this special segment called Juice Grooves, Charles. Oh, shit. I forgot the one other thing you got to listen to. A nice little loop.
It's the moment you've all been waiting for. Pull up a seat and get off your feet for Jude's Grooves.
W-E-F-U-N-K, y'all. Now, this is what I want y'all to do. If you got faults, defects, or shortcomings, like arthritis.
So we got the Jude's Grooves. This is going to be an interesting one. I do not know what the song is called by Kev. He sent it to me. I'm just going to read it.
It's a Jay-Z song. I'll just leave it at that.
So prepare yourself, Charles. Can I hit in the morning without giving you half of my dough? And even worse, if I was broke, would you want me? If I couldn't get you finer things, like all them diamond rings bitches kill for, would you still roll? If we couldn't see the sun rising off the shore of Thailand, would you ride then if I wasn't driving? If I wasn't a figure nigga by the name of Jigga, would you come around me or would you clown me? If I couldn't flow futuristic for you, put your two lips Put your two lips on my wood.
Okay. This is too much for me. First of all, do you know this song?
No, he doesn't know any of that. That's what makes it great.
You don't know this song, bro?
No.
If I heard it, maybe I know it, but right now I don't know it.
No, he wouldn't. It came out like 1997. No, he don't know the song.
Oh yeah, I probably wouldn't know it. No.
What do you listen to?
Good question.
I listen to some Japanese anime music, Japanese music, instrumentals, top 20 stuff. Kendrick randomly, not J. Cole. I'm not a big J. Cole guy. So it's pretty much, if it's like top 20, if I hear it in the club, I'm listening to it. Dance Queen.
Well,
didn't know Peaches.
Man, I feel a bit better about my song selection. Are you familiar with the song "My Neck, My Back" by IKEA?
Yes, I know that song actually.
We had him read that.
Yeah.
Oh no, actually, we didn't. Did we? No, we didn't yet.
I know that song though.
That's next week. That's next week.
Oh damn.
Okay.
So I guess you don't want to hear the rest. I think that line was egregious enough as it is.
That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite parts of every week. Jude reading song lyrics. It's absolutely fantastic material. But he don't know none of this shit. He didn't know Peaches and Cream, man.
What?
Yes, bro. Yes, bro. Yes, bro.
Damn.
Yes.
Damn, you're putting me on blast. Like
Suck
this.
It or
Damn.
Not, Peaches and Cream. There was what's the song by David? Play. He didn't know that one either. He didn't know none of these. It's great.
I mean, there was one song I read where the guy is talking about his dick like a pony, and I'm like, why are you calling it a pony?
He didn't know Pony by Genuine.
What? That song?
I did not know. I mean,
I love how that's the barometer. White people.
I'm 31.
You already
31. Damn. Shit.
I can go next year.
Oh my god, bro!
Big 30, Charles. It's a big moment. But thank you for saving me, because I look at some of these lines, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can get through this. But the Wood one, I wish more people had that breaking point too. You're the first person that had a breaking point. Most people just let me go through this shit.
Most people are just stunned silent. They don't know what the fuck. They don't know what the fuck to say, bro. They're stunned silent. They don't know what to say. And I was like, whoa, enough. Fair.
Jesus Christ. So we're about to wrap things up. This has been great as always. Here's my
Charles, we appreciate you. Thank you for coming on with us.
Yep.
And my pod 69. Follow Kev. Follow me. Follow us on TikTok.
Follow Charles.
4 verts.
Follow Charles.
Best play in Madden by far. Spam that shit. Moss people. It's good to go. 4 verts. Love that shit.
True.
So with that, we're going to sign off. Take it easy, guys, and stay inspired by 69.